So hold on, let me do the intro because it's gonna be the YouTube video. Hold on. Should we do it like the stereotypical YouTube bullshit? Hold on, ready? What's up, guys? Welcome. What's up, guys? Fucking stupid. I can't do it. I can't do it, man. I can't do the typical YouTube shit. He said gross. All right, hold on. All right. I'm just going to do it mad casual, yo. All right. I'm going to show you guys how I make a beat from start to finish today. All right. All right. So here's my process. What I'm doing right now is I'm going through samples. I'm just trying to go through a bunch of joints and just see what kind of speaks to me. And then from there, I'll show you how I import everything, how we chop it up, add the drums, bass, and all that good stuff. Okay. All right. And if you guys have any questions, like, just ask them in the chat. Oh, Funk coming in with the Ilya Efimov modern bass. I gotta look that up, Funk. I don't know if I have that, but I'll check. Nemesis in the house. What up, Nemesis? Ample Sound J. Okay. Yeah, shout out to my man Funk. Another monster. DJ Nemesis, another monster. You ready? Said keep them to yourself. Oh, dude, I wanna mess with a Moog bass so bad, dude. I want a Moog. Even like a mini Moog. I would love to have like a mini Moog or something. Which one? Yo, what up, Jace? Jace1 in the house. Let me get a shout out for Jace1. My man. Make sure you guys follow my man, Jace1. He's got impeccable taste and is a great artist himself. This is cool. The sub 25? Damn. They are? Oh, man. This is pretty cool. I need something for a singer, though. Hold up. Hold up. You will never defeat my tiger style. What's that? Right. Yo, DJ So Nice, what up, what up? All right. I like this a lot. Yo, Papa Bottle, thank you so much. I appreciate the sub. Just let Drug and Marciano go. Bro, I'm saying, right? Okay. I'm supposed to be teaching. This is supposed to be a YouTube video where I'm like teaching somebody how to make a beat from start to finish. You want me to just teach them how to loop that part, that section? All right, so here's what I do, right? Once I find a sample, these samples, like I got these off of YouTube. I don't care about the whole great debate of like, vinyl versus digital digging. Like, who fucking cares? All right. As long as the end product is dope, who fucking cares? Like, you're not dropping like $800 on a single record, so shut up. Okay? I don't care. I personally love sampling from vinyl. I love records. I still have a ton here that I have to go through. You know what I'm saying? I have a ton just laying here that I have to go through. But look, man, some of these records, especially like these international records from like Europe and Asia and like, you know, parts of Africa, like these records are like $100 a pop. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a father. Like, I have a family. Can't just be spending fucking hundreds of dollars on fucking records to make one beat. You fucking nerds. Anyways, all of these are from YouTube. So they usually download as MP3. So what I'll do is I'll slap them into RX8. If you don't have RX8, there are like a bunch of like free, you know, MP3 to wave converters online, or, you know, you can use like, I used to use Power MP3 converter for the longest time. That works great. Drumless beats done right, part 1. Here's how to make a beat. Step 1, loop good samples. Step 2, profit. Excellent. Great work. It's going to be the shortest tutorial ever. All right. So now that I have the WAV file, right? I have my WAV file. I'm going to import the WAV file into Maschine. Boom. All right. We have it in Maschine now. You guys see it? It's right here. Pad 1, Group A. First thing I do is I go into the sound tab, and you'll see you have voice settings right here. Voice settings is like the polyphony, how many times it could play over the same sample over itself. So it's set to 8 by default, but I'm going to change that to 1. So that way only one instance of the sample can play at a time. Then I'm going to hit pad mode on my machine, go to the pad mode screen, and then I'm going to change, I'm going to add it to a choke group 1. So that way, as I'm going through and I'm finding different loops, each pad is going to cut off the previous pad before it. You know what I'm saying? So that you don't have a bunch of sounds overlapping and things like that. So, and then I changed the velocity destination. As long as it's like below 20%, it's fine. All right, so now that we have that set up, so every time I import a sample, those are the first 3 things that I do. I change the polyphony to 1. I set it to choke group 1. And then I turn the velocity destination for the sample, just for the sample, I change that to any number below 20%. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the sample tab, and we're going to go into edit. Now, when you go into edit, you'll see your full waveform of the sample here, right? By default, it's set to 1 shot. You could switch it to ADSR. I don't really care. People make such a big deal out of 1 shot versus ADSR. ADSR basically means that you have to hold the pad down for the song to continue playing. 1 shot means you just have to tap it and it'll play whatever section of the loop you want. You know what I mean? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in to the waveform, and then we're going to set the play range. It's going to default to 0. We're going to scroll this all the way over because that's all the dead air at the beginning of the track. We're going to put it right about here where the first note actually hits, all right? So this is your 1. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end point and I'm going to move it a little bit closer to where we are right now. Otherwise, it's going to play the whole entire song, right? So we're going to kind of scroll this over. What I like to do is I like to look for anywhere from 2 to 4 bar loops. I don't really like to grab 8 bar loops because the BPM detection and the sampler gets a little bit wonky. Anything past 4 bars, I feel like it starts to kind of fall off, and then I have to like fine tune the chops even more. So instead of creating more work for myself on that end, I go 4 bars at the most, you know what I'm saying? But at least 2. 2. All right. So we're at like 3.5 bars right here, right? So let's scoot this over a little bit more. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. All right. So guys, pay attention, right, to where that 4-bar count ended. I think it was around this peak right here. So we're going to cut this right here. 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. All right, so there, right there, we just counted. We have a perfect 4-bar loop, right? So now, this is the part where I will hold the duplicate button down on my machine. I tap the one pad that we just set the loop for, and then I'm going to duplicate it onto pad 2, right? So now we're selecting on pad 2. Both pads now have the same sample loop on it. So it's pad 1, pad 2, pad 1, pad 2. Same loop, same everything, right? But what we're going to do, pad 2, we're going to select pad 2, and then we're going to move the play range, and we're just going to go straight to the next 4 bars, right? 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. All right. Let's count it again. 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. All right, so right here. Right about here. Right about there should be the 4-bar loop, right? So let's play it again. We'll count it. Just make sure that it's lined up. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Perfect. Right there. Perfect 4-bar loop. Same thing again. Hold duplicate down, tap on the pad 2, and then while you're still holding duplicate down, hit pad 3, and then that copies that same loop over to pad 3 now, right? So now you could just pick up exactly where you left off. Now, this is what I do so I don't have to keep loading the sample over and over again, and it just kind of keeps the place where your play range is at, so you're not having to scroll through every time and find where you were at, right? So I just keep duplicating the loop over and over again into other pads. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of scrub through the sample and see if there's any kind of any variation within the song that we can use as like a hook or a bridge or something like that, just to kind of break up the loop a little bit so it's not super repetitive, or even like a breakdown. It could be like a little drum fill or some little variant loop for like 1 or 2 bars. Even that will help kind of break up the repetition when you're working with samples like this, right? Because I'm pretty sure that same dun 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 dun, that same little melody kind of continues out as the main foundation throughout the whole song. But we're gonna try to find like a different part we can use for, like I said, a bridge or a hook or just something to break up the repetition, right? So let's kind of scrub through. Oh, here we go. We got another section right here. Where does this part start? So what I'm thinking now, so now that I'm hearing this section, this could be like the verse section. This could be like the part of the loop or the beat that you would spit the 16 or the 24 or whatever on, you know what I mean? So we might make this like the actual verse section. So I'm going to save this loop. I'm going to grab a 4-bar, save that, and then we're going to scrub through onto the next pad on pad 4. We're going to scrub through and see if there's any other variations, anything that sounds better or that we can use as even more to break up the repetition, you know what I mean? 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So right here. I like that guitar hit right there. So now I duplicated pad 3 over to pad 4, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the start point to the end and then move the end point over. There we go. Little 2-bar loop. There we go. So here's another loop, right? Another 4-bar loop right here. We're going to grab that, duplicate this now from 4 to 5. And then we're going to do a final scrub through. I'm just going to see if there's anything else on here. It looks like there's some activity like right over here. Hopefully a breakdown. Alright, so it's just more flute. Wait a minute. Did you guys hear that? The little xylophone or whatever that mallet instrument is in the back? Hold on. Right here. Alright, so we're going to duplicate that over and then we're going to scrub through one final time here. Looks like it just kind of fades out. Alright, so far we have 6 different loops, right? Actually, we have 5. I usually keep one pad where it's just the sample, the whole sample by itself, so just in case I need to re-chop anything or resample anything, or I got the start endpoint slightly off, I can always just go back, grab the section, and what have you, you know what I mean? So alright, so we have 5 different loops. They're all 4-bar loops. We can use them however we want to arrange them within the beat. So the first thing I'm going to do, right, I'm going to go to pad 1. Right, so pad 1. What I'm going to do now is in the sample window, we're going to select truncate. And basically what truncate means is that it's going to cut out every other section except for the highlighted section. So it's basically going to shorten it down to this one 4-bar loop, right? So you're going to hit apply and then boom. It's just this 4-bar loop right here. All right. So we have a perfect 4-bar loop. Right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my forgot to do this in the beginning, but I'm going to set the BPM for the project to, let's go 88 BPM, right? Let's just do 88. And now that we have this 4-bar loop truncated, right? Which means it's just this little section. Now we can go into stretch. You're going to go into the time stretch mode, and you're going to go into your settings, right? Now, in your settings, when you have your 4-bar loop chopped into a perfect 4-bar loop, it's going to tell you what the source BPM is, and then it's going to tell you what the new BPM is. The new BPM is always going to be your project BPM. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the time stretch settings again. So the regular record, the source BPM is at 82.1 beats per minute, right? The new BPM, we're going to time stretch it to 88 beats per minute. So we're going to make the sample faster, right? Now, on the left-hand side, you'll see here with the sampling, right? You'll see on the left-hand side, there's tune, formancy, beat, auto detect, all that stuff, right? The only thing that I really touch in this window is the tune. And since we are speeding up the record, I'm going to pitch it up by 2. I'm going to do a +2 on the pitch right here. And then I'm going to hit apply. Once you hit apply, now this 4-bar loop is perfectly synced to 88 BPMs, right? Every time I have like my first loop already kind of chopped up in time stretch, I'll go ahead and save the project. Always remember to save your projects. Don't be that doofus that gets really far into the beat, forgets to save it, and then one of your plugins or your VSTs crashes the program, and then you just lost all that work, right? So I'm just going to name this Tribal BAP. Who cares? So we have that first loop, right? So now you can pitch it up or down. I chose to pitch it up. It's to your taste. You know what I'm saying? You can pitch it up. You can keep it the same exact pitch, like not even mess with the pitch at all. It's completely up to you. I just chose to pitch it up just to kind of make it a little bit different, give it a different flavor. So that's our first loop, right? Now, you're going to do the same thing for the other 4 loops that we created. So we're going to go to pad 2, hit pad 2. And then we're going to go to truncate. Then we're going to go to stretch. And we're going to pitch this up by 2. Boom. So we have a perfect 4-bar loop there as well. All right. We now have 5 perfect loops that are time stretched to 88 BPMs, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to get into the slicer mode, all right? So this is the reason why I like to time stretch before I go into slicer mode. Now, you could do this out of order. You could manually slice if you want. That's completely up to you. I don't care, whatever floats your boat. This is just how I do it. This is my process. If it helps you out, if it's a little bit quicker for you, then by all means, please copy my workflow. This is how I'm able to bang out so many beats in one stream, right? Now that we've time stretched each loop into 88 BPMs, we're going to go into the slicer tab, and we're going to switch the mode from manual to split, right? So split basically means that it's going to split it into equal parts based on how many slices you want. So by default, it's going to hit 4, right? So we have 4 equal slices of the 4-bar loop that we sampled. So each slice is basically a bar. I like to use 16. That way, the whole 4-bar loop is fit into 16 pads. So they chop it into each 16 pads. And because it's already time stretched, it's going to be on beat anytime you hit a pad. You know what I mean? So once you have that, right, split 16, or you could do 8, whatever floats your boat, or 32 if you really want to micro chop. But I use 16 just to keep it easy. I'll hit apply. It's going to ask you what pad you want to assign it to, right? Split 16 pads, hit apply. And it's going to default to pad 1, right? So you're going to hit OK. Now on pad 1, it's going to have the entire sample laid out on the keyboard or the piano roll for pad 1, right? Now, in order to get to your samples, you need to set the octave of your keyboard all the way down It's got to be in the key of C. You got to go all the way down to C minus 2. C minus 2, that's going to get you the beginning of your 4-bar loop. And if I show you right here, if I switch to my side view, right, I have all 16 pads contain that sample. Before I even play that, actually, every time you slice up the sample, you're going to have to go back to polyphony and change it back to 1. I don't know why it defaults back to 8. And then, of course, I go to velocity destination, and any percentage under 20%, that's what I use. So now we have the sample on all 16 pads, and if we play it, that's why we time stretch before we slice it, so that way you're not having a micro chop or record it manually. You can just you know what I mean? So you have that. Now you're going to do that for the rest of the samples, right? This part sounds like it's tedious, but it's only taking a while because I'm having to explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing so that you guys kind of understand the workflow and stuff. But once you guys get this down and you memorize this workflow, I'm in it. Like, I'm just boom, 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 boom. I time stretch, slice, time stretch, slice, boom, good to go. You know what I mean? So we're going to go same thing here. 16 pads, going to be on pad 2. Change polyphony back to 1. Next pad, split into 16. Polyphony back to 1. Then we're going to go pad 4. Same thing, split, 16. And then we're going to go polyphony back to 1. There you go. Do that. All right, so now we have, if you go into your pad mode, right, you still have your five loops, but you'll notice now it only plays the first, it only plays like the first section of the chop, right? Right, so, but that just means that it's playing the first note on the piano roll for the way that you sliced it up. All right, so now you can go keyboard. All right, and as long as your octave and your key is set to C, chromatic scale of C, -2, then you go, or you can hold select and then pick a different pad. Go to the next pad. Go to the next pad. All that stuff, you know? All right, so anyways, let me get back to the DAW view. Now you'll notice, right, on the top left-hand corner of the screen here, it's a little bit cut off, but you'll notice that every time that I did the slicing each 4-bar loop into 16 pads, you'll notice that it automatically created a pattern for each one of those, right? So if we go to pattern 1, it's just gonna play the sample in sequence. So now we have a perfect loop, right? It's just gonna keep looping over and over again, right? So at this point, we have the perfect loops. It's set to 88 BPM. Now we can go ahead and start looking into drum selection. And this is probably, one, the most overlooked part, and 2, this is basically going to lay the foundation for boom bap. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the drums, your breaks. Study the breaks, those records, you know, Funky Drummer, Amen Brother, Give It Up or Turn It Loose, you know, Rainmaker, all that stuff. Study those breaks, because that's basically the foundation and the roots of boom bap, is those break records. You know what I mean? Go back and listen to like old like golden era, you know, early to mid 90s hip hop. It's all James Brown loops, breaks, you know, isolated drums, things like that, man. Now that we have the loops set, we can start going through some drum selection, right? I know what kit I want to use for this. So we're going to make something grimy, boom bap, right? Let's go into polyphonic tape breaks, right? This is from Polyphonic Music Library. Let's use volume 5, and let's just go through some of these. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I process drums as well, so you guys can get it to sound crunchy or just grimy and dusty. I'll show you guys that whole process as well. So now I'm going to go to group B. I'm going to create a new group. Group B is usually where I keep my drums, just so I keep everything organized. I like kick number 4. Kick number 4. We'll grab that, right? Let's go to some hi-hats here. I like 24 is pretty good. Ooh. All right, let's go with 24. So hi-hat number 24, and then let's go through the snares real quick. Ooh. I like snare number 4. So the way I lay my my drums down layout wise, right? This is just what I'm comfortable with. You don't have to do it this way, but I usually have my kick on the 1 pad, my snares on the 2, and then my hi-hats on the 3, right? Now if I wanted to add open hi-hat, which we can do, let's just do this just for educational purposes. We're going to add an open hi-hat, right? Now, you guys know on a regular drum kit, right? Open hi-hat, close hi-hat. You could choke out the hi-hat by closing it, right? By default, when you're playing drums on your machine, you'll notice that the close hi-hat and the open hi-hat, they play over one another, which is super unrealistic, right? So if you want to get that realistic choking out sound, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the your open hi-hat, and you're going to set a choke group. You can pick any number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So choke group number 1, and then you're going to go to the open hi-hat, and you're also going to choose choke group number 1, right? So that way, when you're playing the hi-hat, you'll notice that the close hi-hat actually chokes out the rest of the open hi-hat sample. And you could do this with any hi-hat and open hi-hat sounds. You can mix and match kits. It doesn't have to be from the same kit. As long as they're part of the same choke group, you'll notice you know what I'm saying? So you could just choke it out real quick, make it sound as realistic as you want. You know what I mean? All right, so we have our drums here, right? So what I usually do for all my drums, I like to throw this little free compressor that you can get online. It's called Rough Rider compressor. I throw that on the group, and I set that to the sensitivity to 28 and the ratio 4:1. Now you'll notice it makes the drums a little bit louder, right? But we can kind of tame the drums a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower the volume of the hi-hat. All right, so we have our drums, we have our compressor on here, right? Now what I like to do is I like to go to each individual sound, and I like to fine tune each sound to make it sound exactly how I want it to, or how I'm hearing it in my head, right? So we're gonna go to the sound tab. We're gonna start with the kick. the kick has a little bit of like a little bit of hiss at the end of it. So what I like to do is I like to go into the sample tab, and on the top you're gonna go to the fade out option and hit apply. And basically what you want to do is kind of get rid of that hiss or that dead air at the end of the kick. So you still have that thump, but it's getting rid of that air at the end. So I'm going to hit apply on the fade out again. So now the kick drum sounds a little tighter, right? Now, how many times you have to fade it out, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. You're going to have to just determine and use your ears, get a feel for it, right? Now, what I also want to do is I like to use waves EQs. So we're going to go to Q8, and I'm going to roll off a little bit of the high end. So maybe, I mean, and this is also going to be a case-by-case basis. This will, I'll probably go roll it off to like maybe 500. So we get that knock, right? Right around 500. So we got that nice little knock to it. And I'm just going to go back to the regular sampler, and I'm going to pitch this down a little bit because I want it to be a little bit more thumpy, you know? So I put it down to -2. So -2, it's pretty thumpy. I like where the kick is at right now. We can fine tune it later as we like mess around with the sample more, but let's go to the snare, right? Snare. It's got a little bit of that air at the end of it too. So we're gonna go back to the sample pad. We're gonna fade out that air. I went too far. Hold on. With this particular kit, right, Polyphonic Music Library, the tape breaks, all of their stuff is like super already like dustied out, right? But I feel like the kick is, or not the kick, but the snare is missing a little bit of the high end for that snap. So what I like to use to kind of get a little bit of that back is I'll go to JJP drums. And there's a bunch of presets here that you could use, but I'll go to the snare presets just so you can kind of hear the difference. So I like to use present snare. Yeah, let's use present snare. So we got a little bit of that high end on the snare back, right? Now, if we want to take it a little bit further, we can add some Kramer tape just to get some tape saturation on there and kind of add a little bit of like grit to the snare. So let's see what it sounds like. If we go use the snare presets. Oh, I like that. I think we're going to use Nasty Snare preset 1. Nasty Snare 1. All right, so you could do that with any of your drums, right? You can go through and fine tune any of your drums. This is a really good way also to extend the life of your drum kit. So if you have like drum kits, or maybe you don't have enough money to cop new kits, you can go back to the kits you already have and just mess around with, you know, tape saturation, mess around with some compression, you know, tighten up your snares, tighten up your kicks and whatnot, pitch them up, pitch them down, layer them. It's a really good way to get a lot of mileage out of every drum kit that you get, right? So so now I like where the snare is sitting. I like how the snare sounds. So this is the snare, what it was before, right? Without anything, with no, except for the compressor, this is the snare by itself. Completely dry. If we add the JJP and the tape saturation, this is what it sounds like now. So it was a little bit lo-fi, a little bit dusty, but we brought a little bit of life back into the snare just by two plugins. You know what I mean? So I like where that's sitting. We might pitch it down later, but I like where it's sitting right now. So for the hi-hat, I like to keep the hi-hat very simple. I just like to roll off a little bit of the low end using Q8, and that's pretty much it. So let's do a little roll off, maybe to like one. Let's do it to like around 440. Yeah, that's good. And I'm gonna copy this setting over to the open hi-hat. All right. So all I did was copy and paste the EQ, which is basically a little bit of a high pass filter on the hi-hat. All right, so this is what it sounded like without the compression, with no, just so you guys can hear the comparison, right? No compression, no plugins, no nothing, right? This is what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like, completely dry. Now we add the Rough Rider compressor. We add the EQ on the hi-hats, JJP and tape saturation on the snare, and then EQ on the kick. This is what it sounds like with those changes. Super simple, right? So drum selection, learning how to process your drums, learning how to bring the life out of your drums. You know what I mean? You can shape and mold these drums however you see fit within your beat. You know what I mean? That's why I always preach that it's a blessing to get like dry samples or dry sounds, because it just gives you more flexibility when you go into processing. So EQing, you know, throwing compression on there, throwing your favorite, like, you know, tape saturation or drum buses, like drum filters and things like that. Having dry sounds, just, it's like having like if I could equate it to like photography, it's like getting a raw file, right? Like you got a raw photo file. You just have so much more room to play with different effects and EQing and things like that. You know what I mean? So you can really shape it and mold it to how you want it to sound and feel. All right, so we got our drum set, right? Now we're gonna go back into the sample. We're gonna play the sample, and then we're gonna see what kind of groove or what kind of rhythm we wanna play. Okay, I think I like where that is sitting. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to lay down our drum loop, right? And I'm going to record that here for you guys here in just a second. So I'm going to I like to play my drums by hand. As most of you guys know that have been here for a while, I like to play my drums in my hand. You can click them in, whatever you guys are more comfortable with. Some people don't have hardware or they got latency issues, so they can only click in. Completely fine. However you guys see fit. I just like including my natural swing on my beats, so I'm going to record this and see if we can get it on time. don't like to quantize my stuff either, just because, like I said, I like to include my natural swing on the beat. But again, that's just how I do it. You don't have to do it that way. It's just a point of preference. All right. If you guys want to know how to achieve like the same kind of swing without touching the swing knob, I do cover that in greater detail in my YouTube video about drums, how I freak the drums. It's on my YouTube channel. Go check that out if you want to get a little bit more in depth on drum programming. All right. I don't want to take too much time with that on this video, because this is basically just trying to like show you guys the whole process from beginning to end. I think we already took a lot of time going into like how I process each individual drum sound. But if you guys go into my YouTube and you look for the video called How I Freak My Drums in Maschine, I go into a little bit more detail about specifically drum programming, getting that swing without compromising, you know, the beat and shit. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Group A, which is where I have my sample chops, right? So Group A is where I have all my sample chops. And we're going to go and throw some imaging on there to kind of make some more space for the drums in the middle. And also for the bass, because we're going to program a bass line in here as well. So what I like to use is iZotope Ozone Imager. This is a free imaging plugin. This is really good for helping you make space in your mixes, especially with your melodies and things like that, and vocals. Ozone Imager, super dope tool. And again, it's free, completely free. You can get it on iZotope. So let's see what this sounds like. I'm going to mute the drums for this just to see where we're at. All right, so now another thing I want to do is I'm going to throw a compressor on the sample, because I want to sidechain the kick from our drums to the sample here, right? And the way that you do that, if I show you my screen, if you go into, and I'm just using the stock compressor, all right? You go to the stock compressor, right? You select that. And then there's an option here to sidechain input. And under sidechain input, you want to select the source. So basically what this is this is the one sound or the one trigger or sample that's going to duck the sample, right? So if I go to B1, pad 1 or sample 1, that's the kick, our kick drum, right? So if we select that, every time the kick drum plays within the beat, the sample's going to duck out like very briefly. It's going to duck out for the kick, so the kick has a little bit more thump. You know what I mean? It's very subtle, but it makes a huge difference. Right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the gain down, because the sample is a little bit loud compared to the rest of the beat. So all right, so now you notice that the Ozone Imager created that space. The drums have a little bit more room to breathe in the center. Typically, your drums are going to sit in the center of your mix. Most cases, again, it's to your taste. You can always have the drums wider if you want to, as long as you're making space for everything else, right? So we have the compressor, we got the side chain. The side chain on the compressor is set to the kick, so the kick has a little bit more thump as it's playing. And then another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to EQ the sample. I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to use Q8 from waves, and I'm just going to roll off the low end, because we're going to program our own bass line into the beat, right? So I have it right about like at 280 is where I kind of cut the low end off at, as 285 actually right here, according to Q8. So 285 is where I cut it at. So that way it makes room for the bass line, right? So let's play it again. And then we can go to another pad just to see how it sounds. Now we're on pattern 2. Pattern 3. Alright, so pattern 3 is a little bit off. We can fix that with chopping. Let's check pattern 4. Ooh, okay, so I like pattern 5, right? And I like pattern 5 because of that little, whatever that vibraphone or xylophone is. I like that little sound. So I'm going to try to see if I can loop that part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to pad number 5, because that's where this pattern is laid out. I'm going to delete this whole pattern right here. All right. Actually, let me just show you guys that again. I'm in my in the Maschine DAW. I'm going to select pattern 5, because that's this pattern if I mute the drums. Right? But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this pattern, and I'm going to go through and try to chop up. So if we go here. All right, so now what I want to do is, you see how some of these slices are a little bit off, right? We're gonna go through and we're gonna fine tune each slice so that it hits exactly on the beat, right? So let's zoom in a little bit, and we're gonna move this over right here, and then we're gonna do the same thing throughout here, okay? So we're gonna probably move this to right here. And again, we're just fine tuning it right here. All right, so now that we cleaned up the chops, it's landing a little bit better. So So playing around with the chops there, trying to come up with like a different pattern where the vibraphone is kind of like the focal point. Now there is a beat. So basically we have pad 1 and pad 2, aka pattern 1 and pattern 2. That's basically going to be the hook part, and then pattern 5 is going to be the main verse. So this is where you're gonna have your spitters come in. You know what I mean? Or however rappers do. And then you have however rappers do. Yeah. Why did I sound like Patrice O'Neal there for a second? Oh my god. All right. And then this is going to be the hook part right here. What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? You know what I mean? So we have our two little sections there. And then now all we got to do is get a bass line going, right? So bass lines. There's two ways that I do bass lines. The long way is for me to just hit random keys until I find the root note, you know? And then once I find the root note, I can kind of figure out what key we're in and then, you know, play the notes in that key. Or if you have something like Serato sample, it's not always 100% accurate, but it'll get you at least close, a ballpark, you know what I mean? And then you can dial it in from there. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up Group C. Group C is usually how where I put my my bass lines, right? All right, we're going to use Rickenbacker, I think. Ooh, Halloween PM, palm muted, sounds pretty nice. Halloween, and I think it's in a minor key, so we're gonna try this out. Let me lower the volume of this sound. There we go. There we go. All right, so what I want to do is I want to have this bass line kind of sitting in the more in the middle. So, and I'm going to add some grittiness to it. So I'm going to throw Kramer tape on the bass. We're going to go Kramer tape mono. Ooh, kind of brings a little bit more thickness in that bass. Do you know the keys on the bass? Are you playing by ear? So for this method, for this time, all I did was I just kind of hit random keys to see what note or what key we were in, and once I figured it out, it was A flat minor is what I came up with. It sounds nice. It sounds good to me. You know what I mean? Let's record. Bass just a little bit. All right, and then now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll off a little bit of the high end on the bass. So let's do this. Let's roll off. Let's go to like 1,000. Roll out to 1,000. Let's see what it sounds like if we throw a little bit of RC20 on the drums. I like just seeing what it sounds like. I like to use the Vinyl 3 preset and just kind of tweak it from there. I like it. Boom. There you go. A whole beat from start to finish. You saw me pick the sample. You guys saw me time stretch it, slice it, pick my drums, program the drums, fine tune each and every sound in my drums, put it all together, get the bass line. There it is, man. So if you guys have any other questions, anything else you guys want me to cover before I move on to the next beat, because I'm not going to do this for the next beat. It's just for this beat. I wanted to kind of show the process from beginning to the end. If you guys have any other questions, anything you guys want me to cover, particular sounds or things like that, let me know. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. Just don't ask me what the sample is, because there's no sample snitching out here. And with that, if you guys are good, I think we have time to make one more beat. So let's do one more beat.